All right, team, chapter 3, the second of 2 recordings. These were our 3 learning objectives. We just discussed the first phase of writing, pre-writing. Now we're going to take some of these same concepts and apply it to phase 2, which is drafting. All right, so let's do it. Phase 2 of the writing process is drafting. Okay, so we have to remember in the pre-writing phase, we analyzed, we did the thought work. We anticipated the reader's needs, and then we planned to adapt our message accordingly. Now we're to the drafting piece. This is where the pen hits the paper or the keys begin to stroke the keyboard. Okay, we're drafting. So we've done our research. Now we need to get a rough draft message. And the key thing here is articulating that message clearly, but putting it in an organized fashion. So in all business writing, we have an open, a body, and a close. Now this is going to resurface throughout the term, but I always teach to the burger method. The opening is the top bun. The body is all the good stuff, right? The meat, the cheese, the toppings, and then the close is that bun. Now the reason we have an open, body, and close is just like a burger. If you've ever tried to eat a delicious burger without a bun, it is very, very challenging. I had a keto phase temporarily, very temporarily, and I will tell you, we had, meat and sauce and cheese and pickles and all the things sliding all over. So remember it in that fashion. The open and the close hold that message together. They allow it to make sense and organize it. Okay, so let's talk specifically then about drafting, phase 2. First, we need to think about a well-organized paragraph, okay? And as I go through this, I want you to think about reading a news article. And I did place a few funny ones in there for your humor. So a strong or well-organized paragraph has a main idea. It has the topic sentence. That is the primary purpose. So if I read that first sentence, even if I don't continue to read the supporting information, I should be able to glean the main point. Just like when you're reading a news article or a magazine article, when we skim, we hit the first sentence, right? Maybe the last, and we just jump from paragraph to paragraph. And that is a very safe assumption that we can make in the workforce, that people do not read, I repeat, they do not read emails, messages word for word. They're going to give us a skim at best. So knowing this, we have to have a very organized and strategic approach to our writing. Okay, so a strong paragraph, it has a topic sentence. That's your main point, right? If I continue to read nothing else, I should get the main idea. Then the following sentences develop it. They support that main idea with evidence, examples, illustrations. And then the final sentence is just summative. It kind of wraps it all up, okay? So let's look at a couple samples here. Notice the headline. Man eats underwear to beat breathalyzer. Okay, that's my main point, right? That's the key idea. Everything moving forward supports that idea and develops it. And then the final sentence is the summary, okay? So we need to think about our topic sentence. That first sentence really matters. The supporting sentences are important, but put your primary focus on the purpose sentence because that's what for sure will be read. And then we need to think about transitions, how we transfer from paragraph to paragraph. Okay, the next thing we cover in chapter 3, emphasis. This is so vitally important, folks. Now, if you look at the screen in front of you, you see some beautiful scrawling script, right? This looks like a letter that I would exchange with my grandmother. This is a beautiful way to send info to your pen pal, but it's not how we write at work. We need to create emphasis, and we do that through non-verbal elements. It is entirely visual. If I blink back to this, it all blends together, right? Everything looks the same. When we write at work, we want to take more of a resume style approach. Now, granted, this is a resume, it's not an email, but I think it does a really good job of non-verbally organizing. Okay, we see Sandra's name and title, big bold font. We have some division. right? We have headings. We have some variance in font and bold versus unbold. All of these things tell the reader where to go. Versus this, we have to read the entire thing. If we're lucky, it's going to be read to glean what it means. Where this is skim proof. We can read it at a glance and the main ideas are going to come from it. So we need to think about non-verbally, how do we guide the reader? How do we use emphasis to point them in the right direction and draw attention to what matters? Now, I like to think of the nonverbal elements as your road signs. If you've ever been without navigation or your GPS, back in the day, we clinged heavily to road signs to know where to go. And really, this is still relevant because despite where our GPS is navigating us, we still need those guides. We need speed limits. We need red light, green light. We need indicators as the road changes. So I want you to think about business writing just like you would road signs. We need to label the main idea, okay? And we need to make sure that main idea is first, assuming that our work is only going to be skimmed. And we need to spotlight, or in other words, point big, bold arrows using variance in font, size, spacing, all of those things to create emphasis. Now, a term that's going to resurface throughout this course is white space. White space is exactly as it states. It's the space between the words. White space is your best friend as a business communicator because it is guiding the reader. It is telling them where to look. Unlike this script, there's no emphasis and no white space. So we have to read it from start to finish. And sadly, in the workplace, messages that look like this just simply do not get read. Okay, so remember those nonverbal elements. Those are your road signs to guide the reader. Now, I'm just going to show you a sample letter. I do some professional writing for people, so trust me, everything we're learning in this class, I do live by. This was a letter we wrote to Denny Sanford for a friend who has patented a medical device, and we were asking Denny to invest. Now, without reading this, mind you, we had a lot to jam on one page. I just want you to look at the white space, okay? We have space. We have headings, need. Here's the need in industry. Key indicators of success. We have bullets. Why we need your help. Here's the actual request, an image. Assuming Denny Sanford probably is asked on multiple occasions, on multiple platforms to invest and give, we wanted to make this at a glance readable, using those road signs as we mentioned. So even if Denny were to give this a skim, he would glean the main idea of our ask. Okay, so this is just a sample of using the road signs. Next, we need to talk about tone. Okay, for you Gone with the Wind fans, I might be dating myself there. The classic line, frankly, my dear, I do not give a damn. Now notice in this meme, we have not an active version of that, but yet a passive. Frankly, my dear, a damn is not given by me. Now, if you've seen the movie, you will know that taking the passive approach, that line loses a lot of its power. Same applies in business writing. We want to maintain our power. We want to take the active voice, okay? So let's break that down. Disregard principles. I teach this among 10 principles in other courses. So we always want to use the active versus the passive. The active voice is where we put the subject or the actor first. And then secondly is the need to know information, how the subject or the information is portrayed. This is our preferred in business writing, whereas passive reverses the order. It takes longer to get to the point. Now we're going to put an asterisk by this. Sometimes it is necessary to be more diplomatic, but the majority of the time, the active tone will always help you be direct and maintain your power. So let's look at an example. Now, folks, I kid you not, this literally came from a break room of a location I worked in Kansas City, Missouri. So let's first look at the passive. During regular scheduled office hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, we ask that you please be mindful of leaving the lights on. So this was posted in a break room, and I believe the reason was the lights took a long time to warm up. But I want you to note the passivity. Okay, regular scheduled office hours, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. We ask that you please be mindful. We are like 20 plus words in, and we still do not even know the subject matter, right? This is very passive. And oftentimes a sentence or a headline like this, they'll never actually get to the point. They'll become fatigued or confused and just stop. So let's look at the active example. Please leave the lights on during regular office hours of 8 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Now notice, if I just read the first 4 words, I got the main idea. Please leave the lights on, right? So this is the active tone, the subject or the actor first. In this case, it's the lights. And then the remaining information is to follow. So once we get the main idea, leave the lights on, everything else has context and it makes more sense. So we want to always use the active. Okay, the last thing we're going to look at out of chapter 3, and this is just previewing what is to come. Chapter 3 introduces us to direct versus indirect messages. Okay, 2 strategies. When we send a direct message, meaning we state our purpose immediately, we let the reader know precisely the point. We use that when we send good news, okay? Because it's good news. So we want to lead with that, and we want that to be the main idea. Whereas when we have to communicate bad news, we use an indirect strategy, okay? Indirect. So we take a bit more delayed approach. We use indirect strategy when we expect the audience to maybe not be happy about this, and we want to respect the emotional component. We want to understand that this news may be upsetting, and we want to minimize that negativity, and most importantly, restore goodwill and maintain relationship, because that is what business communication is all about. Now, again, chapter 3 just introduces this topic. We're going to work more heavily on it in future topics. So let me give you an example. This is a direct message to Sue. Hello, Sue. Good news. Your request for vacation the 3rd week in November has been approved. That's your opening. Here comes the body. Please stop by my office and sign the request approval documentation. Here comes the close. Thank you for all of your hard work. Enjoy your vacation. So notice the point of this message is the vacation has been approved. So we want to start on that note. We want to be direct because it is positive. We know it is going to be well received. Now let's flip that. Okay, let's talk indirect. Actually, I'm just going to back up a step. There's an acronym we use for direct messaging, and that is BILL. Let me just plug it in here. Whoops, sorry, BIF. Big idea first. I repeat that. Big idea first. We use BIF, big idea first, for direct messaging because we can be direct as it is good news. Now let's look at the same sample using an indirect strategy. And the acronym we use for indirect strategy is BILL, big idea a little later. So we're going to be truthful, we're going to be sincere, but we're just going to delay that bad news a little bit in efforts to be sensitive to the reader. Okay, opening. Hi, Sue. I want to follow up on your request for vacation in November. Now notice how I indicated the subject matter, but I didn't say yes or no here. Body. 3 team members requested the same week off prior to receiving your request. As this is our busiest season, we need at least 2 salespeople staffed each day. For these reasons, I was unable to approve the requested time for vacation. So notice I provided the explanation before delivering the bad news. Logic and reasoning. I repeat, logic and reasoning is psychology indicates that people will accept bad news to the best of their ability if it's logical and reasonable. Now our close. I'll gladly approve the week prior or the week of your choice in December. Time off is important. I will make sure you get the time off you have earned. Now here I have restored goodwill, but I've also offered some alternatives. And that's what's most important. Again, if you say no, not today to your kids, their first question is going to be, well, when? And adults are no different. Okay, so that was chapter 3, folks. We looked at phase 1, informal versus formal, sentences and sentence faults, and then phase 2 in the second recording, creating emphasis, using the active versus the passive, and also Biff and Bill. Thank you.